Good Biz. I hope you like the new intro music. I'm so happy to have Lucy here with me today. Lucy is the founder of Juuni, and they are based in Australia, so you get to enjoy a good accent, an Aussie accent, which I love, one of my favorites. So I will allow Lucy or let Lucy introduce herself, and then we'll get into the interview.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's a pleasure to meet you and to be chatting to you today. My name's Lucy Hoskin. I live in Sydney in Australia, and I'm co-founder of a fabulous period product subscription box called Juuni, which is right here. Yeah,
Awesome.
so I'm thrilled to be chatting to you, Michelle.
Yes, I'm so excited. Shout out to Molly Rugg for the connection and
Hi,
connecting
Molly.
I'll be sure to tag her on LinkedIn. So just before we get into all the questions, I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit more about Juuni and what's in the box, and just tell us a little bit more about the business and the brand.
Yeah, fantastic. Juuni is actually an Australian period subscription box. So everything we have in the box is organic. We launched it, Eri, my co-founder, and I launched it last January. So some may say not a great time to launch just before COVID hits. But to be honest, for us, because it was all online and it was brand new, we had nothing to compare it to. So, you know, we were growing from nothing. So it's exciting. In that 12 months, our little subscription box here has actually grown. We have a few thousand subscribers. So the little Juuni box comes to you in the mail, open for PMS, for peak male satisfaction. And so the little box, you open it, and it's meant to be something that's really happy, a surprise, a celebration. So we wanted to do everything that normally a period wouldn't be. Normally, you know, you're dreading your period, you're thinking it's terrible, but we wanted to make this fun. And the word Juuni actually means, in Japanese, means 12. So Juuni. So I don't know whether you're familiar with the Japanese language. So what we wanted to do was create something that was really fun from the age you first get your period all the way through, you know, say to menopause. So we wanted it to be a box of empowerment, you know, something that you'd open every month that comes to your doorstep that you go, wow, this is amazing. So upon opening it, you get beautiful little messages like, holy moly, you're gorgeous. You get beautiful little empowerment messages, gorgeous little things. We give free face masks. We're giving free pimple dots. So it's something, you know, to get really excited about. I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and instead of dreading it, she now gets her little box, opens it up. You know, we tried to make the packaging and the branding colourful, fun. So again, everything's organic that we have in the box. So yeah, I suppose for us it was all about trying to destigmatize what a period was, trying to break down those taboos. And I know for myself and my daughter, when we first started discussing it, she was like, don't talk about it. And then the more we kept talking about Juuni, like having Juuni was a way of opening the conversation and chatting, and now it's normalized. Years later. Years later, it's becoming normalized.
Yeah, I love when you said it's kind of an empowerment box, just because it's, rather than your period, which is something that is natural, it is part of being a woman, and something that allows us to later birth children should we want to. Like, that is a powerful part of our body, and sure, there's like actual physical cramping and pain, but like it shouldn't be something that we're like dreading all the time. And so to turn this moment of the month that is a very natural part of being a woman into something that you look forward to, and it's a box of self-care where it allows you to like take care of yourself during this time where you're physically kind of like, oh gosh, like I got cramps, or I don't feel great and my body's tired and all of this. It's more of like, okay, I'm just going to let my body do its thing, but I'm like, yeah, I can still get through this, and it's not something to be ashamed of. And the fact that this is something that's kind of, it seems like it's focused on younger women, girls, teenagers, because it allows them to be destigmatized and not so
Absolutely.
yeah, opened
And
up
it's funny because when we originally launched it just over a year ago, being the name that it is, Juuni, meaning 12 in Japanese, we thought we were launching to a fairly young audience. We
yeah.
thought sort of 12 core targeted audience, 12 to 25, say. But what's actually happened, because we take a lot of stats when you go in and apply for your box and sign up, the average age is actually about 25 to 28. So
Oh,
it is actually a bit older, the people that are subscribing. Yeah. So we get a lot, there's a lot of tech behind our website.
mm-hmm.
So Eri's very big on, my co-founder is very big on in the tech industry and has another business as well. So that was part of her mission, to make it it's all mix and match. So and they're all mini boxes. So there's no other service around in Australia that you can actually pick and mix,
Yeah.
according to your flow, whether it's tampons, pads, lights, and then you can go in every month and change it, keep editing it. But
Yeah.
it's funny because when you open the conversation with someone that hasn't had their period yet, it's shock horror. They do not want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to start educating them from the ground up is actually a real challenge. And I know they're starting to do it in schools a lot more in Australia. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know about the US, but the way I explained it was, if mummy didn't have her period, you wouldn't actually be here. So we need to be grateful and we need to be thankful. And actually a period is just like us going to the toilet. It's like doing a wee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very honest. And that's what we want to do with this business. Be really honest, empower women and break down all the taboos so that it's normalizing it.
So I'd love to hear about the story that led to this company. Like
Oh.
what situation or thing happened that kind of led to, we need to start a company around this.
We need to start this. Well, Eri, my co-founder, actually has two daughters. One of her daughters is 17 and the other one's 10. So she found with her 17-year-old that there was really nothing on the market in Australia. I mean, I know in the US, there's a few quite cool, edgy brands coming in there, but in Australia, everything was really serious. So the things you go to the grocery store or to a pharmacy, the brands you get either haven't changed since 1972, the Tampax type of daggy with a flower on the corner, a daisy, or they're very artistic and they're just too mature. There was nothing that sat in the middle. And there was nothing in Australia that was a subscription-based model where it came to your door. There was no one doing any of these little extras. And I suppose for us with Juuni, our ultimate goal is to keep adding products that the young woman may need every month, whatever it may be. Razors, deodorants. We want it to become an all-in-one box.
Yeah. So it started with one of her daughters walking into the store and
Yeah.
realized
Yeah.
like there's nothing for her here. It's like either
and I was at the beginning of the journey with my 13-year-old, or who was then nearly 12, and I was like, oh my god, there's just nothing. I wanted to put together a little pack to put in her school bag that had things that she'd feel proud of, or that she thought was super cool, because kids these days, 12-year-olds, they're brand savvy. They know when things look nice. They want to have the cool things. And there was nothing available. Making periods cool. Yeah.
So I want to talk about it being all organic products. And
yes.
What if I'm not using organic products? I mean, Lord knows I was not using organic products when I was 12.
No,
Or
I know.
probably for the last, or 20 years after that, or 15 years, whatever. I forgot how old I am. So what have I been putting in my body? Like,
I know, it's synthetics, dyes, all these things that you would hate to look at the back of a box and actually read. Like, it's actually scary. And I must say, I was the same when Eri and I first started delving into this. It really makes you question things. If there's one thing that you do organic, it should 100% be tampons, because it's scary when you look at what's in some of those things, the bleaches and the dyes. And I know if you go into a pharmacy or supermarket now, the US would be exactly the same as Australia. There's still a heap that aren't organic. It's an interesting landscape, actually. People are slowly changing, but the big players in the market, most of them still aren't organic.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, just because, like I eat organic food.
Yes.
Like I'll choose, I've done my research, like, oh, the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 13, or,
Yep.
whatever the thing is of like, these are the foods that you should wash. because they have more pesticides in it and different
Mm,
types of chemicals that you shouldn't be ingesting. But yet,
mm,
like, there's tampons I'm sticking up my vagina, and like
absolutely.
I don't
Who
know
knows
what
what's in
chemicals
them?
are in there, which is
I
also
know.
ingested into my body and my brain.
Absolutely. Totally. Totally. I know. It's interesting. I think if you look at categories, say like deodorant, I know in Australia and the US, that's starting to now completely shift, you know, the aluminium free or the sulfate frees.
Mhm.
So slowly it's, you know, it's changing in the beauty industry. So for us, it was super important. We were
Yeah.
definitely not going to launch a brand unless, you know, we had proprietary manufacturing. Everything was done beautifully. The packaging's biodegradable. So for us, that's really important. As we add things to this box over time, this year we're coming out with some additional products that will follow that same methodology.
So why do you think the beauty industry or parts of the beauty industry is catching
Yeah.
up? Like, you know, sulfate free shampoos and more
Yes.
organic or natural makeup, but like why has feminine care lagged behind?
Being so late to the party. I think it's because it's a category to me that's been kept under wraps. Like in Australia and New Zealand, supermarkets are only just starting to stop calling it sanitary products and calling it period products.
Oh
So
my gosh. I
yeah,
did not even realize it was called sanitary products, as if periods
yeah,
are unsanitary.
yeah. The whole thing is just so archaic and old fashioned. It's so wrong. So that whole shift is starting to happen here in Australia and New Zealand, thank God. And even in schools now, New South Wales, the state in Australia where Sydney is, they've just announced this year they're going to be rolling out free tampons and pads for state government schools
Mm.
because of period poverty being such a massive issue. 500 million women globally suffer from period poverty. In Australia, it's 1 million females. And I know that I think 1 in 5 American kids, this was a stat that I saw this morning, has missed school or gone home early because they don't have access to period products. 1 in 5 girls. Now, that then affects education, it affects self esteem,
Mhm.
everything. So it's full on.
Yeah.
It's major. So for us, that's one big thing that we want to help educate. And I suppose that message of positive social change. It's not just for us helping with happy boxes, which I'm sure we can chat about in a minute, and Indigenous Australians. It's actually helping everyday Australians and everyday people around the world
Hmm.
because period poverty is a thing.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. Like, who goes without toilet paper in the modern world? Do
Hmm.
you know what I mean? There's kids going to school that don't have anything, don't have pads, tampons.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah, it's
major.
about providing not just the access, but um, the support and
Absolutely.
the positive message that it is okay to get your period and it is not dirty
It's
or
very normal.
unsanitary, and it is
Yes.
a completely natural part of your body and how your body reacts. And everyone's different and it happens differently, but
And
it,
the fact I'm always saying to my daughter, if it happens to all females, that's half of the population in the world. So
mhm,
why is it such a, you know, everyone's kept a lid on it and people don't
mhm.
talk about it. Yeah.
Also,
So
like, what other female is going to say, ew, you're on your period?
none, not one, are they? So
Yeah.
I think, you know, I think the education starts in the home. You know, it's a parenting issue. Then it goes to an institutional level with schools,
Hmm.
and then you know, then it goes hard. It's layered and
Hmm.
it's changing. You know, we've got to try and break down all the barriers at
Yeah,
every level.
absolutely. I mean,
Mm,
even just thinking about the language that are
yeah,
in stores of when you're like how the language that's being used either in schools and in stores where you shop and you buy this and in the media, and then the access
absolutely.
that's available, the fact that it's going to be free, like that's great rather than having to pay. I remember like when I was
Mm.
younger, you had to put like 25 cents in order to get a tampon,
Ah,
and
yes,
then like
in
the
the vending
tampon was
machine.
yeah, and it was like a cardboard, just like it was,
Horrid.
yeah, like the texture was gross. Like you didn't want to
Yeah,
use it. It was not like
not
designed.
a nice experience.
Yeah, like
Mm.
you're like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. Like everything about this
Mm.
is uncomfortable now. Like rather than trying
Totally.
to make it easy and fun, like your body.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
let's talk about period poverty. And I'd love for you to break down what that means, because we talked a little bit about access, but what else is involved in this space of period poverty?
Well, I suppose in Australia, there's an amazing company called Share the Dignity. And here, they're the ones that are really championing the period poverty. So they're getting all these companies like Juuni and like all the other big players to donate. You know, everyone's getting on board. And so they're going out donating hundreds of thousands of packs to women all around Australia. So that's super important. So for us, we donate to Share the Dignity, but we've also partnered with another company called Happy Boxes. Now, Happy Boxes has been started by some young females up in the Northern Territory of Australia, the very top tip of Australia. So what we wanted to do was really support people in our country where it was really affecting them. You know, there were loads of girls not going to school. And so what we're doing is we're donating products. People also have the chance to sponsor, you know, like people sponsor a World Vision child. You can sponsor one of these Indigenous females in Northern Australia, so that we try and start this positive social change of getting rid of period poverty, especially for the Indigenous cultures. So yeah, I suppose period poverty can affect anyone and everyone. So it doesn't matter whether you're, you know, at a local state school, whether you're living in a remote area, it can affect anyone and everyone. So yeah, for us, that was a really big thing to try and tackle.
Yeah, so Happy Boxes is it's like a nonprofit partner
Non-profit organisation, yeah.
that works specifically with Indigenous people.
Yes, Indigenous Aboriginal Australians. So for us, that was really important to keep it local, keep it in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's our way of giving back. And as our business grows, you know, we're just a startup. We've only been around for just over a year. We'd love to keep elevating that, where we can make some positive change. Because for us, that's a super important. Apart from educating and empowering young girls, the social change is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could see the Happy Boxes, and I'm not sure how they operate, but I could see it being part access and just part education and knowing
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
not alone,
Yeah.
and all of
Yeah.
that being part of the destigmatizing and learning
Totally.
about your body and learning
Yes.
like
Yeah.
how it works and giving it
Opening conversations and
yeah.
keeping the narrative going of education, I suppose. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, we look, in an ideal world, we'd love to partner with Australian schools and go out and do a whole education program. That would be the ultimate dream.
Yeah.
But again, that's a big governmental logistical challenge. But yeah, that would be a dream.
So, okay, tell me more about this dream. The dream is to
Oh,
partner with, like, yeah, what's the dream of
I suppose the dream is to get out there and be a education program that goes into all the schools.
Mhm.
That's the big goal. And secondly, I suppose creating, you know, the social change, really making an impact.
Mhm.
And then thirdly, breaking down the taboo and the stigmatisms with young Australian females to
Mhm.
normalise this, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
And one thing I've found super interesting in today's day and age of social media is just even our Instagram page. So when we first started it, you know, you're posting all the beautiful imagery, making it look lovely. And then I said to my 13-year-old daughter, "Oh, you're going to follow Juuni?" And she goes, "Maybe. Yes, look, I will, but I don't know whether it's still embarrassing to follow a pad and tampon company." And I was like, wow, that's, you know, that's an interesting thought in itself. And I'm
Yeah.
certainly not judging her for that, but that's also something to get
Yeah.
past. Like, okay, right, we've really got to start from the bottom here.
Yeah. 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 Like, what if?
Trying to get young females to feel proud. Do not be embarrassed about following a company like Juuni on Instagram, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's
Anyway, yeah,
that's
there's a number of silent barriers that you don't even realize that are there.
hmm. Silent barriers. That's interesting.
Mm,
What would you say? This is my last question. What would you
mm.
say your mission is?
To educate and empower
Yeah.
young females, because I think through empowerment comes confidence, you know, open conversations, girls feeling proud,
Yeah.
being normalized. You know, I think that's a bit of an umbrella word, but
Mhm.
that, I suppose that would be one of the main ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know like mission is always a hard thing to kind of, it takes so much time to get that down, especially as a
Yeah, it
start
does.
of the
Down
year.
pat.
So,
I've made that up on the fly there.
yeah, I know. I totally understand that. I know it takes so long. It's some of the work that I do in my day job, and it takes a long time. But the silent barriers thing is super interesting to think about because there's so
Yeah, it
many
is.
silent barriers within this topic of feminine products and accessibility and
Yes.
it being healthy for us. And so
Yes.
just
Yes.
it's about menstrual equity, like that's what this issue
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
and that's what you're
Yeah.
trying to solve for, and thinking about the silent barriers and approaching those in ways that make this topic approachable and something
Yeah.
you could talk about, um, whoever you are,
Yeah,
however
absolutely.
you identify. And I think that's really interesting to think about, like making it accessible, making it fun, making it a topic of conversation. Like why
Like, I suppose
be a
I
topic
totally
of
agree. And I
conversation?
suppose for us, it's like the way we do sex education in early childhood years
Yeah,
within schools and in the home. Maybe this is one thing that's intertwined and built into that. So it's normalized by the time they get to the age of 12.
yeah,
They're like, that's old news. I know that. But I think it's got to be rethought, the whole conversation.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Normalizing the conversation so there's no longer those silent barriers. Yeah, for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that you love my silent barriers.
Yeah, there's something in that. I don't know
You're
yet.
thinking about that,
Yeah,
but
I'll
it's so
email you.
true.
I'll follow up with an
Yeah.
email with some more
Quote,
brainstorming and thoughts.
hashtag silent barriers. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this was so great. Um,
Oh, thank you, Michelle. It's so interesting and it's really good to talk about it. You're on the other side of the world,
yeah,
and the US has certainly different brands, but we're all singing the same song, aren't
yeah,
we?
yeah,
The same.
definitely.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, fighting the same fight, still trying to get to this
Absolutely.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in from Australia, and I can't wait to post this
My
video.
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It was really interesting having a chat.
Yeah,
Lovely.
thank you. All right, talk soon.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.